Hello, my name is Mike Ignatoski, the creator of the BlueLynx hockey spreadsheet, the spreadsheet that uses Excel programming to help you conveniently manage your tabletop hockey league project, including the standings, the schedule, but most of all, the player and team stats for your entire league. BlueLynx was created to help you get more enjoyment out of your tabletop hockey projects by giving you more time to play the games and look over the stats instead of painstakingly calculating them and entering them into a spreadsheet. In this video, I'm going to cover two things. The first thing is how to set your team default starting lineups and how to work with them. And then I'm going to talk about setting up your custom team colors, which is optional but is recommended because it enhances your score sheet for sure. So let's get back to the league lineups. In this example, I'm using a league I just created for a historical team season for the 1980 Islanders. And you can see I'm looking at the schedule sheet and of these 80 games, and you can tell here, since nothing has been colorized or that I haven't played any games yet, so it's just a brand new league with that I haven't started. So I want to set the lineup so I can get closer to playing the games. So I'm going to go down to the league lineup sheet, which is here. I'll also mention here on the score sheet there is this BlueLynx Navigator button that I should probably get into a better habit of using. But what it is a little floating window that is meant to provide an easy way to get to the various and many tabs in BlueLynx. So, and there are 6 little tabs up here, and each one has different buttons below it. And the idea is each one of these buttons will jump to a tab or a sheet in the spreadsheet. So there's main and stats, but in league setup is what we're going to be looking at right now. So league setup is where this league setup is and the lineups. So if we go to the lineups, and when you hover on this button on here, the little pop-up text shows you the actual name of the sheet, which is LG for league lineup. So here we are on the league lineup sheet, and so here are all the 14 teams that were in the league in 1980. And if I click this expand all, you'll see that they're all blank. And over here's some help that shows you how to work with this sheet. But basically, when you click these team names or team IDs, it'll just toggle between expanding or collapsing that team. So if I hit this, click the collapse all, it will collapse them all. That's how I started. So if I click the Flames name, it'll expand them. I can't click the Flames name again because it's already selected. So if I click the Flames ID, you'll see it'll contract or collapse them. So that's how that works. I'm going to first set up my Islanders since that's what this league's about. So I'm going to click my Islanders and scroll a little bit. And you can see for each team there are 2 lineup cards. And this first one, the green one, is the primary or the default. And that's really all you need to, I'll say, worry about. The secondary one is used behind the scenes, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, but you never have to really configure this one. Just focus on this primary one because when you load a game in the score sheet, this is the lineup it's going to load. So you can see here it's blank. So to load or to define a lineup, you click on this name. So this is primary, so I'm going to click primary. I think it says it over here in this help here too. You click this word primary and it'll launch the lineup editor. So that's what I will do. So now I have my lineup editor, and now it's a matter of how do we fill this up. Okay, on this lineup editor, as you can see here, your roster is on the left, and the kind of empty lineup card, you could say, is on the right. Now, one thing I'll say to start with is, in creating this league, I should have done a I'll say a better job of probably paring down this roster before I started, but it's okay. I didn't do that because there are guys in here that let's just say I don't have in my game, like Garth McGuigan and Mike Horty. But anyway, that's not the my biggest problem here. The main thing is I want to figure out who are going to be my 20 guys that when I load a game in my score sheet are going to be the default 20 guys I'm going to use in my game. And where you know, whether it doesn't have to match the history of who really was the 1980 Islanders third line right wing. That's not so much important as it is when you play your game with your 19 or whatever team you're using. That if you need to set your lines, and I don't know, different games I think work different ways, but I know some games you have to pick your lines, and so that this is a way maybe for you to remember what your lines are, depending on how you store your cards or game or however it works. But this would be a convenient way to so you don't have to remember them each time or how you want to do it. And you can obviously change your lines around too if you want to. That's fine as throughout the season. But anyway, you basically just click a name and then click where you want that person. So I want to say I want Bossy on my first line right wing. Okay, I want Trottier, my first line center. And who's my first line left wing? I think it was Clark Gillies. I'll go with that. I click Clark Gillies and click left wing. If I make a mistake and let's say I accidentally put this Garth McGuigan guy in here, oh, I didn't want it. I don't want to play him. I could do two things. I could pick, okay, who do I want for my second line center? Maybe it's Bob Bourne, and I'll just click him and click on that position. And it'll take Garth McGuigan and put him over here at the bottom. Yeah. So let's say my third line center is going to be Butch Goring. Put him there. So you just continue filling this up, but you can, you know, if you don't worry about putting somebody in the wrong spot, you can always take him back out. If you want to basically just erase somebody, like if I put Ken Morrow on the first line D, and I really want him on the third, I could do two things. First, replace him with somebody, like Dennis Potvin if I want to. Or I could just click on the none over here and use that to click on Ken Morrow, and it'll put him back at the bottom of the list. You can see here when you start with your rosters, if you use the historical rosters, it puts them in alphabetical order. But when you take somebody in here and take them back out, it just puts them at the bottom of this list. That's just how it works. So, as I said, you basically just use this to fill up your roster here. Now, one thing you want to remember is that it'll only let you have 20 players total, even though there are 22 slots here, because this fifth line left wing is kind of like your 13th forward, you can think of it as, and this fourth line D, your seventh defenseman, seventh person here, is optional. And if you want to have, 13 forwards, assuming you're going to have two goalies, that's 15. You're only going to be able to have 5D, 5 people on your defense. So these are just in here as an option. This basically this seventh defender and 13th forward. But if you want to use those, you got to take away some one of the players from either the forwards or the defensemen, because otherwise you'll have more than 20 guys. That's probably way more complicated than it needs to be, but that's just how this lineup is set up. If you want to not necessarily just have 4 lines of forwards and 3 lines of D, or 3 pairs of D. So let me finish this and then we'll catch back up on the video here. Okay, so I've finished assigning my players to my Islanders default starting lineup. Again, I want to emphasize it's this isn't how you have to start every game, but it's just going to be your starting point. You can tweak this lineup before you start playing your game. Another item is that these positions that are listed after the player's name, those if you're using historical lineups or historical rosters, I mean, um, those positions come from hockeyreference.com. They don't come from me. So I think they're semi-accurate. It seems like, but they're definitely not, you know, perfect for guys that play different positions or multiple positions. So don't worry about, oh, this guy, it says he's a left wing and I'm going to assign him to right wing. You can put him wherever you want to. Um, One thing I will say in the score sheet is that it is helpful to for sure group your forwards and defense properly. So that way it's easier to find your guys in the lineups and different things on the score sheet if you have your forwards really playing forward positions. So now that I got this done, um, I'll say save and close, and then you'll see that it'll write them over here. So you can see here it kind of shows kind of how many you can see where it shows how many players I've got, and this is my first line, left wing, center, right wing, second line, third line, fourth line, etc. So that's how it works. And the other thing is once you save it, and if I collapse it, you kind of see it puts these stars in bold to tell you that you have that lineup assigned. And as I mentioned in other videos, you don't have to assign all your lineups before you start playing your games, but you should assign your lineups before you start playing a game with that team. So what I mean is this. So let's say I got my Islanders done. If I go to my schedule, I see my first game here is against the Flyers, Islanders Flyers. So let me go to my score sheet, and since my league is all set up, even though I don't have my stat categories set or my team colors set, I could I could load a game into the lineup, and I'm just going to do it just so you can see how it works. So I click this game ID up here. It sends me over here to this schedule sheet and says select the game ID that you want to load into the score sheet. And I'm going to pick the first game. It doesn't force you to play them in order, but if I'm going to do something like this team season replay, I'll very likely play them in order, especially if I want to keep track of injuries or things like that. The order of the games matters. So I'm going to pick this first game, Islanders at the Flyers. So when I do that, you'll see I'm going to get this. It's kind of an error, which says there's a lineup problem that the primary lineup for the Flyers appears to be blank. So you can correct the lineup and reload the game, or you can create a secondary lineup by clicking this edit right now. It'll be used for the game. Okay, so what does that mean? Then it tells me who the starting goalies are right now by default, and you can see the Flyers don't even have one. So here's the score sheet. Here's the lineup that I just set for the Islanders. The Flyers don't have any. And that's why we really want to go fix it. And so even though it will, I could click this. What it was saying was, if you see how this little red triangles here, they all have these little helpful tips. On this lineup edit, it'll say click this cell to edit the current lineup. It says load a different lineup, but it effectively means edit your current lineup. So I could click this edit lineup here for the Flyers, and I could set up my lineup here. But you see when you hear how it says the lineup is the secondary lineup, not the primary lineup. So whatever lineup I set here, it's going to save in the secondary, and it'll load it into this game, but it won't. I can't really use it next game. So the next game I load with the Flyers, it'll still say, hey, it's blank because it's loading that primary lineup. So my point is, you should definitely get your primary lineup set before you want to play a game with that team. It just saves you a lot of work. So I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to reset this score sheet. I'm going to say reset all. and clear this out and go back to my league lineup sheet. I'm going to use my little thing up here. Go back here and assign the Flyers lineup, and then we'll do this again. Okay, so you can see I've finished up creating my Philadelphia Flyers starting lineup, and now I'm going to save it. Uh, One thing about these lineups is you don't have to put 20 guys in these starting lineups. If your game you only have 15 or 16 or whatever you've got in your game, maybe you only have 15. They got so that's fine as long as you have to have at least one full line, but you don't have to fill out with 20 guys. So whatever you've got in your game or however you want to work with it, it's fine. So I'll save and close this. Now it writes it in my lineup. Again, if you make a mistake, you can see if I click this, it won't initially do anything because it's already selected. If I just click over here and click this primary again, I could go back in here and make any changes or fix any mistakes that I made, and I'm good to go. Maybe I want to, well, whatever I wanted to do, I could. I'll also mention here, if we, if there were guys on the injury chart, which is an injury chart down here, this sheet, that were denoted as currently being injured, it would list them here and then show them up. They would show in red, so you could or list their names here in red, so that if you wanted to, I guess be aware of it, you would be. So that's what that's for. Okay, I'm not going to make any changes, so I'm going to hit cancel, and now I'll collapse these. I got these set. I'm going to go back to my score sheet and reload that game. So go back to my score sheet, click my game ID, go into my schedule, click the game ID here, and now it'll load these lineups into the game. And now it tells me, it looks like these are the starters as goalies. You can change them if you want. So here's my score sheet. Here's the visiting Islanders, the home Flyers. Here are the goalies. This active is what this stands for here. With this green X would say who this is. You can, if you want to change your goalie and say, oh, I want Pete Peter to start instead, I click his name and it asks me if I want to switch. And if I say yes, it'll move this green X to that. Similarly, for each team, if I want to tweak my lineup for whatever reason, I could click this lineup edit cell here, and it'll bring up the lineup editor. But you'll see here how it says this is secondary now. So what happens kind of behind the scenes is it takes whatever you load in here, which will be your primary, but when you want to edit it in the score sheet, it kind of edits it on using the secondary as kind of a scratch pad. So if for whatever reason I wanted to play, Frank Bath instead of Ben Wilson, I could click Frank Bath, and change it if I wanted to here. Basically, typically if I want to make multiple changes, I would do that. Let me just say save and close. So what it does is saves it as a secondary and reloads it. It kind of jumps around a bit, but it gets back to the same place. If I just want to make one change, say, yeah, I want to take Norm Barnes out and put in somebody else, I can just click his name, and it'll ask me if I want to choose a lineup replacement for Norm Barnes. If I say yes, then it'll list what it kind of considers the bench subs, even though they're not really on your bench, but it's more like maybe in your locker room. But it's basically lets you make a change to the starting lineup. So and here's where it shows the position on the roster. So if I wanted to say, oh, okay, I guess I was wrong. I really need Ben Wilson or Blake Wesley. I want to play defense this game. I'll say, okay, and you'll see here it'll sub out Norm Barnes for him and put in Blake Wesley. So if you just want to switch a guy or activate a guy, it's easiest just to click on their name. Like if I wanted to, I want to replace Bob Bourne this game with Butch Goring. You just click that. So anyway, So those are two ways to tweak your starting lineup before you start playing your game. You can either click on a name just to swap somebody out for somebody on your bench, or you could edit the lineup. Another thing I'll say with swapping somebody out. So if I click here and I say yes, I want to choose a replacement. This position here again, I said it, this is what's on the roster. So this is why it's a good idea, or one idea I should say, if if for players you don't have in your game, if you don't delete them from your roster, that you change their position maybe to, like I said, use an X or something here, so that when you see this, let's just say let's say I didn't have this Mike Kazicki, and so on the roster, if I replace his position with an X instead of a C, when I saw that X here, I'd know, oh, I'm, I'm not going to play him because I don't even have him in my game. So that's just another possible tip of how to modify your roster. If you don't want to delete the guys from the roster, if you mark their positions, change their position to make it easily able to identify that maybe you don't want to play them or you don't have them in your game, that's another option. Okay, so that covers the lineup portion, and now let's move on to the team colors. Okay, so let's add some color to our spreadsheet here. Again, this is totally optional, but I think it does add to the flavor of the whole score sheet. And the colors, as we saw, were set on the league sheet. So if we go to our navigator here, league setup, and the league setup sheet, which is the league sheet, brings us here. Here's the column where we set these team colors. By default, it just kind of shows the team ID, and it shows it in bold because a lot of times that's how it is on a score sheet. So what we're really trying to do is set the background and the font color here, and that's kind of like setting your team paint swatch for what colors it'll use in different places in the spreadsheet, but it's mostly on the score sheet. So for this Islanders, I'm going to pick those first. So I'm going to just click in this cell, and I usually, there's different ways to do it, but I usually just right click and look at these two things here. This paint bucket is the background color or the fill. This here, the font color or the text color. So I'm going to set my Islanders first, and let's say I want to have a blue background. There's different ways you can find your colors, but I just typically go to this more colors, kind of stretch this out. So I want kind of a dark blue for my Islanders. I don't know which one I want, but let's go with that. And then I want orange text. So now I right click, go to this text. I'm sorry, kind of messing with this, but I'm going to go with this orange. You can see here that looks good enough for me. Now, that game we had the Flyers. Let's pick the Flyers. The Flyers. A lot of times, if I'm not sure about the color, I'll look at the hockey reference. Let me just bring this over a second. I was looking at this. So here gives me an idea of, okay, this is the kind of, maybe the color, which is kind of a light orange or a burnt orange or whatever, and black. So I'm gonna leave the text black and just switch the background. So I right click, go to this background. Here's the same orange I just used for the Flyers. The Islanders. I could try using that. And I made some of these other ones. I'm going to go with maybe this one. Well, let me just see. I bring this up. Do any of these? That looks pretty good to me for like these Flyer colors. So I'm going with that. So now I have these two teams set, and you could set all of them. You don't have to even set all your teams. If you want to just do some of your teams, you can. That's fine. But once you're done, if you want to use them, you only can really use them before you start a game. You can't change the colors in the middle of a game. So on my score sheet, if I make a change to the colors, I need to click this reload league. And this reload league button can do a few things, but in general, if you get somehow you get an error, it's good to click this. It kind of just resets your league information behind the scenes, like how many teams are in it, who the players are, and blah blah blah. So that's what I just did, and it also includes those colors. So when I do that, now I'm going to, since I didn't start this game, I'm going to reload it. So I'm going to clear my score sheet by resetting. And I will make another video on just about the score sheet and how it works. But right now I'm just going to focus on this part. I'm going to reload this game. First game. And yep, those are my goalies. So this is how it looks with the colors. You can see maybe it's a little loud, but I think it's better than black and white. So you can see here it has various cells where it's using this to kind of make things jump out at you. And I think I like this flag good. This maybe is a little bluish, but I'm fine with it. But my point is you can tweak it to your heart's content or not even use it at all. It's up to you. And it's not just here. I think like on the that lineup editor button, if I click this lineup edit, it shows up here. It shows a few other places, so it's really kind of makes it obvious of what team you're working with. So anyway, that's it for this video on how to kind of set your team starting lineup, your team's default starting lineup, and how to edit that when you start a game, as well as how to set your team colors for your score sheet. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. And like Red Green says, keep your stick on the ice.